As you all know, COVID has affected all of us in one way or another, and we're no different. However, we all need to get past this pandemic and move forward. If you're considering studying and working in Australia and New Zealand, now is your opportunity to register for a program. If you haven't already done so, please make sure that you contact one of our client services team to begin your application. Now, vaccinations have just begun to be rolled out in both Australia and New Zealand. It will be essential for you to travel to Australia and New Zealand to be vaccinated for COVID-19. I know that the Australian and New Zealand governments will be providing vaccines from Pfizer and several other suppliers to the South Pacific, because once you're vaccinated, it means that the likelihood of you getting a serious condition from COVID-19 pretty much disappears. Once you're vaccinated, you will be issued with a digital or printed certificate to prove that you have been vaccinated. In Australia, we're rolling out 4 million vaccinations over the next couple of months. So things are looking good for our borders to open as soon as possible for our students in Australia and New Zealand. Well, currently there's no official announcements from the Australian government. However, we do know that both Australia and New Zealand are working on bubbles so that they can be inclusive, particularly for the South Pacific. And we expect that the Pacific nations will be part of a bubble soon, allowing you to travel and begin either your study or work program in Australia or New Zealand. If you are a current client and we have an application in front of us, we're already starting to lodge your application. If you haven't already registered and you're wanting to begin a study program, don't let the COVID-19 pandemic hold you back. And the reason that we say this is that it's important that you start to get your application and the details that we need together now. Because when the borders do open, and they will open in 2021, there is going to be a huge backlog of potential students wanting to come and study in both Australia and New Zealand. So our advice, along with many hundreds of clients that we're currently working on applications, is to start that process now. So that when your visa has been granted, the only thing that you're waiting for is your jab, and then you'll be able to start your program. For many of our international students that have already got their visa and it's been processed, we're offering through many of our institutions and universities the opportunity for you to undertake a couple or 3 modules in your home country until our borders are open. That way you're not missing out in the study for 2021, and the universities are supporting this in a big way. If you request to defer your course start date to a later date once your visa's been approved, obviously we can do that, and there's no extra cost to do that as well. Universities are more than happy to defer your start date later in the year or even early next year if that's what you desire. Here at Ferguson, we're very, very committed to making sure that we're getting the right information back to you in as quick a time as we can. But as you can appreciate, being pretty much closed down for 9 to 10 months last year, there's a huge backlog that we currently have of applications. If you are a client that registered last year or in 2019 and you haven't heard from us, please make contact with us, because we definitely want to follow up on your application.